Oh, Turkey Day, oh, Turkey Day. Well, it's Thanksgiving, and we have a special Thanksgiving show. Angela, tell me how to pronounce your last name. Is it Fur?
It's fair, actually.
Fair. Okay,
Yeah,
I apologize, Angela
not at
Fair.
all. Yeah.
Now, how is it I was able to get you to work on Thanksgiving?
Oh, it's just an ordinary day for me. Not that I'm not grateful and thankful for all the wonderful blessings that come with being an artist, but I celebrated Thanksgiving last month. I live up in northern British Columbia, Canada. So we
Uh,
have our Thanksgiving in October.
so, did Canada have its own version of the Pilgrims? How does that work?
I think it's more of a harvest festival. So yeah, that's more what we focus on.
Okay. So, what are you going to do for us today?
What I want to do is kind of demonstrate a little bit of my painting process, and it's an intuitive painting process. My title for this is Speaking with the Page, and the idea is working kind of with some immediacy in watercolor rather than having an outcome all planned out. And I often hear students talk about wanting to be looser painters, and this is a method for reaching that kind of goal.
Okay, well, that sounds like a plan. And today I think you should paint with cranberry sauce and gravy. Let's see, what other liquids would there be at the Thanksgiving table?
That's a good question. My mom
Yeah.
makes an amazing punch, but I think I'm going to more lean towards some autumn colors. And actually, we have a foot of snow here in northern British Columbia. So autumn is long disappeared, but we're going to channel a little bit of that beauty of fall. It's my favorite season, and just enjoy some of that lovely glowing warmth that we experience here where I live in the north.
Okay, well, terrific. Well, let's actually, what we're going to do today, because it's Thanksgiving, we're going to play the whole opening. Let's do it right now.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhodes.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to those of you in America. We're glad that you're here, and we are thankful for you. We are thankful we have had this all began with COVID, which has been a while now, thankfully. We had 16,600,000 and change, almost 700,000 views on this program since we began, and we are grateful for you guys making that happen. I hung up the YouTube plaque back there because YouTube gave us a plaque for our 100,000 subscribers. We're well beyond that now, but we would love it if you guys would subscribe. There may be new people watching today because it's Thanksgiving. So you just go to YouTube and you look up Art School Live or my name, Eric Rhodes, and then you hit the subscribe button. That would be really terrific. And of course, if you give a follow on social media, that'd be nice too. Anyway, we're grateful for you and we're thankful for you. And you know, there are a lot of people who are able to watch today who haven't been able to watch during weekdays because of work and otherwise. Now, some of you are having lunch right this minute, and I suspect I'm not on for you. Some of you are having your Thanksgiving dinner later. Of course, some of you, it's a different time zone. And of course, those of you all over the world, it's different. Here in America, we celebrate Thanksgiving, which is the celebration of when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, and then they ended up having a harvest meal with the Native Americans. And as a result, they were giving thanks. That's what Thanksgiving is all about in America. Our guest today is Angela Fehr. Angela Fehr. I'm so sorry, Angela. And she's going to do watercolors for us today. And we're so glad that you're willing to work for us on this Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. And you had it right for the first time, Eric. It is Angela Fehr. Room for all kinds of puns about, you know, fair dealings and, yeah, creating paintings that are just merely fair. So
well,
I'm just making those up on the fly.
Everything you do is fair. Let me show you some of these fair paintings. There's a fair one. There's another one. Another. You're having a lot of fun. See, they're better than fair. They're great.
Thank you. You know, yet it's kind of surprising seeing the work pop up on the page, because it's not the artist that I thought I was going to be when I first started painting as in my late teens. And I love looking back and reflecting on my own artistic journey. It's just really inspiring, and reminds me not to assume too much about the direction I'm taking or where my painting might be going in the process. And that's kind of what I wanted to share today in my demo.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. I'm just going to go right into gear here, Eric, and share my work surface. I think you can see that. I've got a reference photo here, and I'm going to pop that up a little larger just so we can see what's kind of inspiring me today. Where did it go? There we go, technical issues. So this is a very near and dear spot to me. It is my backyard trails here in my home, just near Dawson Creek, British Columbia. If you've ever driven to Alaska, you start your journey on the mile 0 of the Alaska Highway, which is my nearest town. And I love this country, although we do get bit by winter pretty early on. But this little spot is one of my favorite places to walk under that little evergreen tree along the trail with my little dog. I was up there today and in a foot of snow. And I wanted this image to inspire me today. But the one thing that I know about my painting practice is that I tend to be pretty literal when I start. I want to walk detail by detail through the painting and end up with something that looks a lot like my reference photo. Maybe something like this, a quick kind of plein air style, trying to keep a loose and immediate feel, but it's pretty literal to my reference photo. And then as I continue to paint, I start to challenge myself to interpret the image in new ways, things that get maybe to the heart of the emotion of the scene. Maybe they might communicate a sense of the wildness of place. Maybe we zoom in on the things that are most important about the scene. And I like to play with watercolor in a way that surprises me. I think we talk about painting intuitively, and sometimes we get the word intuitive confused with imagination, because my imagination can imagine ways I might interpret this scene as kind of finished outcomes. But if I'm painting intuitively, I'm not really thinking about the outcome as I am engaging in the process. And I wanted to share some exercises to help other artists, if you want to paint more intuitively, to help you paint a little more freely and be a little more attuned to the painting through the painting process. And prior to our session here today, I was warming up with some watercolor, and I do a lot of painting on the back side of things that, I wasn't quite happy with. I like thinking about the back side of my watercolor paper as my permission pages where I'm free to do whatever I want. In this particular exercise, I was challenging myself to be really loose with my marks and really to kind of scribble out a scene. And I was literally using scribbling motions on the paper. And then I also tried a variation where I really simplified the shapes. And I went straight to that big evergreen tree. I worked with my larger shapes and left all the details to the imagination. This is something I could build detail on top of, but this idea of challenging myself to kind of exaggerate different aspects of the painting, it really helps me to see what is possible with watercolor, and it helps me to be braver. And so as we get started here, I'm just going to pull some paper.
Will you do me a favor?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We got to see that palette of yours. Pull that palette over, because that's pretty incredible.
You want to see a little closer?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my palette. Now, this tells you a little bit about who I am.
Yeah, you
And
got
we'll
a lot
just
of
put the money shot right there. Give it a little spin. Yeah, it's a party. I love color. And color is one of the things that really inspires me. But color doesn't do much if you're simply painting little controlled squares on a piece of paper. So one of my very favorite ways to warm up with watercolor, to open myself up to the watercolor possibilities, is to give the color a chance to flow. I do so much of my painting with a water bottle in my hand, spraying water on the page. And I like to
I have an
start.
idea.
Yeah,
You ready for it?
I want to hear it. Yes.
Watercolor roulette. Okay, so
We could do that.
you hold your
And I will.
brush, you hold your brush over a spot and you give it a
Mhm.
spin, and wherever it lands, that's your first color.
Okay, I take your dare.
All right.
Okay, so let's just moisten part of the page first of all. I've got a little path of water now kind of
What
trickling
kind of
off
paper
the
is that?
page.
Is that
This
a
is
cold
it's a
press?
watercolor block. It's actually the Saunders cold press. Generally, I
press.
paint on cold press and the 140 pound or 300 gram. That's
Okay.
kind of what I lean towards, what I can afford, and what I am used to and enjoy using. I like to work with larger brushes, maybe a long round. This is a number 10 rigger from 𝗟𝗏𝗵𝗿. It's the biggest rigger they make, or at least they did a couple of years ago. Yeah, this is another of their number 10 rounds. So they've got nice, long, flexible bristles. Sometimes I'll throw in a flat brush and or a dagger brush with a really fine point. I also like this little hardware store brush. These tools remind me that I don't have to be in control of every aspect of the watercolor process. Okay, so we're going to choose a color. Now, Eric, I do really want to work with fall colors, but we're going to play your game and we're going to spin.
Right.
We're going to
All
spin
right,
the
here we
palette
go. It's
where we
time
end up.
for
Okay.
watercolor roulette. Let's spin the wheel.
There we go.
Round and round
it's
it
going
goes,
fast.
and I'm getting so dizzy, and where it lands is the color. Okay, let's
There
get
she
into the
stops
comments
now
and
in the
predict
page.
what
It
color is
really
coming.
goes for a while. I'm going to
Oh,
spin
you
a little
cheated.
slower.
You cheated. You stopped it where you wanted it to. Oh,
Okay.
okay. All right, comments. What color is it
And
going to
now
stop
stop.
on? All right.
And I really didn't look, I promise, but I ended
Yeah.
up over here with my oranges, so I get what I want.
All
And you
right.
got to see the fun little spin there. So let's pull out. This is a Mars orange,
Oh, you
and
can
I love
pull
the
it out
fact
of
that
there.
these come right out.
Nice.
So if I get a little, which is nice because all these dark ones look a lot the same.
Yeah.
And so if I'm grabbing, an indigo and I don't want to get it mixed up with my moon glow or my Payne's gray, I can pull it right out and have my palette of colors laid out in front of me. So
Cool.
for each painting that I do, I'm not going to use all 64 of the hues here, but I'll grab the first one and I'll let that color kind of inspire what I pick next. And I'll end up usually with 3 or 4, maybe 6 colors, not a lot more than that. Now I am going to mist the paper one more time, just so I have a juicy amount of pigment on my paper. I'm slightly tilted. I've got this little sushi bowl here. I think it's for soy sauce or something. They're great for mixing paint. And we're just going to touch that Mars orange in and let it start to move. And I like to spend a minute working up a little bit of pigment. But the goal here is to pay attention to and really look at what that pigment's starting to do and let it move. And with the fluidity, we get that extra movement. So we're going to create that path of water. And while we're doing that, we're going to let the imagination start to kick in a little bit. And I like to think about trying to see my subject in whatever has fallen onto the paper. And sometimes that's harder than others. I think if we're thinking about autumn and we're thinking about the reference photo, there's definitely an aspect there of, okay, this could be something, but I don't want to steer it too quickly into the direction of forcing it to be a thing at this point. I don't want to say immediately, okay, I see my tree, I'm going to make that tree, I'm going to force the painting now to follow those shapes that I'm imagining. I really want to take my time. And I think with the many years I've been teaching artists, so often we're in a hurry to make the painting do what we want it to do instead of trusting it. And as I'm pausing here, I'm noticing that the Mars orange is really gorgeous. There's kind of almost a brown where the pigment has touched the paper, and where it's flowing off the page, it's a lot softer. And so we're actually getting kind of multiple colors almost happening here. Also, if I turn the paper, I start to see maybe other things happening. If I'm seeing actually kind of fallen logs in this little area. if I turn in this direction, and I could actually start to see some trees popping forward here. But again, I don't know if I want to rush it. Let's just keep moving the paper and seeing what we can find. And this is where my spray bottle again helps me out. They say you can't fix mistakes in watercolor. They say what you do, you can't get your light values back. A lot of the things that we struggle with in watercolor and how easy it is to overwork, a lot of times it comes because we're rushing. And so slowing down to just pay attention to what one color is doing on the page is really a good exercise in kind of some discipline. I'm going to be a little bit disciplined with my brush right here and actually put a line that could be a tree. Generally, I don't paint my tree trunks in the Mars orange, but we're still playing with that idea of that one color. And again, I'm going to encourage it to move. So we have Mars orange. What plays well with Mars orange? I'm not going to spin the palette this time, but I'm going to kind of just think about what do I feel like I want to put on this paper. I can look at my reference photo again. I'm going to just shrink it down and pop it up into the corner of the page, actually. And it just decided to get really, really tiny and upside down. It's always a good time. Okay, just move that over. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, so we've got the reference photo on the page. It's actually backwards, so I don't know how we did that, but that's a live video for you. But what we see here is we've got those beautiful oranges in the scene, and we've got all these other backup colors. And I'm seeing kind of a lot of neutrals. The tree trunks are kind of an indeterminate color. And I have to use my imagination to say, well, maybe I see a hint of violet in there. Maybe I see a hint of, fill in the blanks. What do you see? And this is where an artist can have a little bit of artistic license in understanding or thinking about how they might portray some of those obscure or harder to define colors. We have the evergreen tree. It's got, that we generally think of those as maybe being a deep green. So I could think about bringing that into the painting. But I also have the little studies I've done previously. And one of my favorite aspects of these was the little hint of blue violet that's in my neutrals for this painting. So I'm going to kind of go in that direction and grab this kind of cobalt violet here.
You normally grab those out?
I do, yeah. It gives me the ability to kind of work up some color, especially if the color is starting to run low. And then it keeps me from getting mixed up. So I end up having this little palette lined up in front of me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and so then I have that nice, I can see at a glance here. Now I've got an orange, I've got a violet, what might go well with those colors. So I'm continually kind of revising that palette as I start to lay them out here. I'm going to let that violet really flow down the page because we get to see now how it plays with our Mars orange. And I kind of like those two colors together. And it's interesting to me because Mars orange and the cobalt violet, both of these we would consider like a secondary color. And I've noticed that for my art, most of the time I'm gravitating towards my secondary colors, my greens, my violets, my oranges. Something about the way I paint just draws me in to those hues. And then we'll throw in something vibrant for a little pop of additional, I don't know, zing, I guess. And I'm just thinking about the characteristics of these paints. And that's really what happens when I start to bring two colors into play with some fluidity, is I want to notice how they interact with each other. And I want to notice their individual characteristics. This particular cobalt violet, I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but it's actually a very textural color. It's got a bit of a sedimentary texture to it. And so it's actually giving some really beautiful texture that could be trees off in the distance in the background of the scene. And I'm actually seeing my composition kind of coming to life here. I'm not seeing my evergreen tree, but I am getting that feeling of forest, you know, the vibrance of the forest nearby, maybe the mass of distant trees is kind of this softer, muted violet. There's a hint of that message already in these little shapes. And that gets me thinking about ways of communicating, I don't know, ways to make these textures tell my story rather than it needing to be all about the way I paint and my individual brush strokes. And so if I let the paint tell the story, what could I start to do here to develop this scene? I really like some of the things that happen when I let a heavy weight of Mars orange move on the paper. So what if I placed a little more Mars orange and encourage it to move again? And so much of what I do as an intuitive painter is I make a decision. I'll put a brush stroke on the paper. Let's see if we couldn't paint a tree trunk with the cobalt violet. It might be too wet to get a shape on the page. We'll just see what happens. But I'll make a decision. I'll pull my brush through my paint here, right down to the bottom. Why not? Let's pull right through and see what happens when those two mix. And sometimes what will happen, that one's actually, I'm not hating that. It's a kind of interesting murky orangey violet.
Orangey violet, murky orangey violet.
I love that because so many of the colors that watercolor makes don't have names. You can't, I mean, there's no tube of murky orangey violet out there that you can buy, but we can make it happen in watercolor. And I think that's just part of the magic of the medium. And every intentional thing I do, there's actually another violet that might play really well with these. It's a little more opaque. It's called 𝗟𝗴𝗏𝗪. And you can see how it kind of stands out like a gouache. But often when I put on, you know, a mark on the page like this, let's say we're painting tree trunks with 𝗟𝗡𝗏𝗪, getting some more of that kind of cobalt violet, but more opaque. But as soon as I start putting lines on the page, I'm doing an exercise of control. I'm telling the painting what I want to do, but I also want the painting to talk back to me and to have a little bit of, take some of the pressure off. If I can loosen up some of these marks, and I'm holding my spray bottle so you can guess what I'm going to do next, but if I can let go of some of these marks, the pressure is off me and it goes back to watercolor to be beautiful. And I really think that watercolor wants to be beautiful. So if I can encourage it to flow, just a little mist of that water, it softens those marks, makes it less about Angela and a lot more about the beauty of the pigments as they flow together. And let's get some of that kind of murky orangey violet coming back maybe.
All right.
Just going to touch that in here. And I'm going to let it mix on the paper. And I kind of have in mind that it would be a good idea to add an additional color, but I really don't want to do that too quickly. Because I think that these two colors together, I have a hunch, and I want to chase it a little bit, that these two colors together could do more than I think they will. So that idea that we both saw that murky orangey violet here and thought, you know, what is that? And that idea that maybe there's more here, let's get some more mileage out of just what these two-ish colors can do together. And the more I explore that, it gives me a kind of a broader vocabulary just for what these two colors could do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm going to show you something, and it's going to be crazy, I guess. I mean, I don't know. This is as crazy as I get. I'm not the craziest person out there, but I'm going to let go of actually a good portion of my upper part of my painting right now. And So basically I'm undoing everything I've done, a good portion of everything I've done so far. And I want to show you this because I think it's part of the beauty and versatility of watercolor that we can make decisions and then release those decisions and let watercolor kind of engage with us. I'm just going to blot this little bead of excess water. And then we're going to come back and flip this around again, because I do really like this orientation. But what I wanted to just do there was, there's this thing about watercolor being transparent. So when we layer, whatever is underneath shows through. And that to me means that even when I place a stroke on the page and then spray it and release it so it flows off the page, it still existed in time. And I don't know, that's important to me. I have the freedom to kind of undo things, but then I have the freedom to also, or the knowledge that they were there. And I don't know, there's something in that to me. Existential. Okay, so then we dance back in with a little more violet again. And I think what I'm doing, if I'm working intuitively means you don't always get the ability to explain in the moment why you're doing a thing. You look at your painting and you think, I think it could really use some purple. And you put some purple in, and then later you might be able to explain, you know, there's maybe complementary colors going on or some kind of completion of a triad. We don't know. But you might see reasons later. But in the moment, we trust the instinct and we let it kind of work in the page. And I like that. I think if I let my instinct speak into the painting, my instinct says, oh, let's pull a pencil out. We haven't drawn on the page yet. And let's see what that does. Let's reinforce the favorite shape, which is this little line right here. Actually, I really like this little line here too. So we're gonna trace near that. This is just a big fat sketching pencil in, I think, 4B. So it's a nice dark pencil. And bringing in a pencil now, and trusting my feeble little instincts that I don't know why, but this is what I feel like I should do. I think there's something there because we are much more likely, at least for me, I was a very rule following child. And as an artist, I wanted to not make any mistakes. And to be able to say now that I'm not going to defend what I do or have a good reason for it. I'm just going to trust that I can just do a bunch of things on the paper and then figure out why it works later. And that to me has been a really freeing thing. So suddenly these little pencil marks have made kind of a little bit of depth come to life. I'm actually starting to see a painting here. And it's gone back and forth, and I think that's a good thing. And so here, I'm just going to pause for a second. I'm going to take a drink of water.
Well, you know, that might be an opportunity for us to just take a little break.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I would love to come back to this in just a minute, had the water soak in, and then we'll talk about it the next step.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Well, this is our Thanksgiving show. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We are really, truly thankful for you and grateful that you were here with us today. In case you're just tuning in for the first time ever, this is Art School Live. We're here every weekday at 12 noon, and we have been here every weekday since COVID began over 4 years ago. So we have the belief that anybody can learn to paint, and we want to teach you, and we have thousands of lessons. We do Marketing Mondays, we do Feedback Fridays, and we do lessons in between with guest artists. And so today we have a fabulous guest artist. Now, in honor of Turkey Day, I think we just have to show this real quickly. So let's play the wild turkey sounds right now. This is something you don't get to see every day. These are a couple of wild turkeys out there in the wild. And the noises are not what you would expect. There we go. Gobble, 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 gobble. All right. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Nice. Hey, you enjoying this? Okay. So here, go to the comments. What's the best way to fix a broken pumpkin? The best way to fix a broken pumpkin. Anybody know? You ready? Use a pumpkin patch. All right, here's the next one. Why did the cranberry blush? Go into the comments. Why did the cranberry blush? It saw the turkey dressing. Oh. All right. What do you need to make Thanksgiving s'mores? Pilgrims. Okay. What did the Thanksgiving turkey say to the Christmas ham? Nice to meet you. Okay. What's blue and covered in feathers? A turkey holding its breath. Knock, knock. Who's there? Normally. Normally who? Normally, I don't eat this much. Okay, I think you've had enough. Enough of the turkey sounds, enough of the turkey jokes, and hopefully enough time for her to be able to let her painting dry. Let's get back to Angela Fehr. Angela, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. You know, I love the fact that this kind of process does allow me to paint for a long time on one painting. I used to divide my painting into 3 stages. You know, the first layer, which was very loose, gets those basic shapes established. And then I'd slowly add in some detail to suggest form, and then some final detail to really add that, you know, make everything come together. And at this stage, I've actually grabbed 2 more colors we're going to play with here. And I might even grab one more, but I want to think about bringing something exciting into the painting. And there's 2 things that I'm really excited about right now in terms of color. And you know, I'm obsessed with color. It's one of the exciting ways that I bring life into my paintings. And lately I've been having a lot of fun playing with Bloodstone Genuine, which is a very textural neutral, very sedimentary. And I also love a turquoise. A good turquoise always brings that pop of vibrance to my painting. And I have the feeling that if I take this little turquoise, it's a cobalt teal, and let's make a little puddle in the palette. It's semi-clean in this part of the palette. I have a feeling that if I add a tiny bit of Mars orange to that, I'm going to get a color a little bit more muted of a turquoise, and you can see that it gets immediately a little duller. And I like that. I like that pop of color. And it's a great tip if you're adding fresh color into your painting, that adding a pop, a little touch of a color that's already in the painting will just help unify that color so that this new color feels like it belongs in the painting. The other thing I'm noticing is that as it starts to dry in the palette or sit in the palette, it's not even close to drying yet, but the orange and the turquoise kind of pull away from each other. So they're going to do interesting things if we let them flow down onto the page as well. I'm going to just suggest a little bit of distant, I don't know, shrubbery with this kind of muted turquoise. And I'm also wondering if it would be a nice kind of hint of sky color if we dilute it a little bit. And just throw a little bit down up here and just see what that does.
No fun.
So we'll just pull that down the page a little bit. I'm still thinking of this as a big tree in the foreground. I've kind of lost the idea of putting in that big evergreen tree. I don't see a great place to position it. That might change, but at this point, I really like the things that are happening on the page. The shapes that were suggested by that very first splash of orange are still shapes that I love and want to continue to pursue. So I'm going to just kind of keep that in mind as I touch in some additional color. It's damp paper, it's not dry. And I think we should maybe think a little bit about some darkest darks. And this is where the Bloodstone Genuine gets to be really fun, because I can put that on the page. It's very, very dark, and immediately have that impact of contrast, value contrast, which as a watercolorist, I love. I love seeing the contrast between light and dark, the hints of the paper poking through in some areas, and then that Bloodstone Genuine just being so dramatic. But Bloodstone often starts to get a little bit paler as it starts to dry. So I'm going to drag some of the Bloodstone just across my tree shape here. And one thing I've learned when it comes to painting intuitively is I have to find myself in a position where I'm willing to surprise myself. If I'm only doing what I know to do, I'm never going to really be surprised. I'm just going to be kind of controlling my process. And when I get surprised, that's when my painting starts to get really exciting. But I have to trust it, because being surprised by your painting also means that you might fail. You're going to do things that are unexpected. You're going to do things you can't control. And it might just turn out to be the best thing you've done in your painting, because you've never done it before. It's new and fresh. And I like bringing that into my painting practice. The more years that I paint, the more I start to feel like, what happens when I'm not able to surprise myself anymore? If I just can predict everything that happens, my paintings aren't going to feel fresh to me. So there's always that pursuit of what is a way to bring the unexpected into the painting process. And that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably have experienced that too in your own painting.
Oh, everything I do is a challenge.
And I think that's why we're artists, isn't it? That we think about every painting is new. It's never been made before. How do I make this something that feels resonant for me? Just lifting out a little bit of that dark. I like the darkest dark of the Bloodstone. I'm going to make it dark again, but I like the complexity of having some mid darks in there too. So I think I went super dark a little faster than I needed to in this little tree here. But yeah, we want to paint something that's never been seen before. And every painting has that privilege. Even if we don't feel the painting has turned out, we can just, I don't know, I think there's something amazing in the fact that it never existed before you picked up the brush. And I feel the need to put some tree branches in.
What are you using for those tree branches?
This is the wisteria right now. One thing we do, I think, I used to put in really dark tree branches with my skinniest lines, but if you can put in a fine, thin tree branch in a lighter value, and then layer over some darker value colors,
makes it look more
then you start
realistic.
to get the depths in the trees, right?
Yeah.
So a little Bloodstone over top of the wisteria, and then we start seeing some beautiful, just tree branches are like arms reaching out, reaching towards the sky. And a little bit of that wisteria there. One thing I like about having opaque colors in my palette is that I can use wisteria. I can use some of these turquoises. Lavender from Daniel Smith is also an opaque color. And so they have the ability to bring a little bit of light value into a painting that has gotten dark. And I need that because I love putting darks in my painting and then realizing that I should have left some lighter values. So I tend to dance back and forth between opaque and transparent colors. Now I'm thinking about my painting in terms of composition. I sketched in with my pencil a few little shapes, and I generally don't sketch with my pencil in the early stages of the painting. So this is a later stage for me in my painting, is when I start to feel a little lost with my brush. I've started coming in with my painting and kind of just scribbling around. And I've never been someone who would draw out my scene. I shouldn't say that. When I was a new painter, I tried to draw everything really carefully, but I've much more enjoyed a process of sketching directly with my brush. And so now I use my pencil as a way of bringing some line in to the painting. When everything's pretty damp and I can't work with my brush, I can still sketch with my pencil. And I think, let's put in some some more Mars orange. Let's put in some leaves that are kind of up. We can sketch in some tree branches to hold those leaves up in a minute. But with this little scruffy hardware brush, I've literally found it in the dollar bin at the hardware store. And it reminds me that I have very little, not nearly as much control as I'd like to have in my painting practice. And that's been a good thing. I don't know about you, but when I've tried to make marks that look random with my paintbrush, my marks always look like soldiers in a row. And so I really do rely on a scruffy brush like this to help me have a more free kind of expression of my mark making. And I can just, you know, stab the page a little bit, and suddenly we have, I see a wobbly tree here that I think I'm going to really like. Now this is the goal of, for me, an intuitive painting practice is getting to a place of kind of attention and fascination. I notice that the quality of my attention changes the longer I paint, or the longer I work through this process of wanting this looser, intuitive approach. So I'll start out feeling, especially because I'm on camera today, I'll start out feeling a little bit, there's a little pressure on me. I want to make a good painting. I want to do well. And yet, as I paint, if I really focus on what the paint is doing, if I really think about trusting what my instincts say the painting needs next, all of a sudden there will come a moment where it's like, oh, I like that. Oh, let's do more of that. And suddenly my whole, I can feel my breathing change, my body language changes, everything starts to move towards serving this painting and what it's kind of telling me that it needs. And that's where things get really exciting, when you start to feel that sense of tuning into the painting and a sense of real possibility. And it's not all about me anymore. It's trying to make the right decisions. It becomes just, oh, I see something that I could do, and it's, you know, I can't wait to try it. And I'm just putting some little stuttery dark marks here. These little marks are going to connect this little tree, a little wobbly tree over here. In the north, I don't know, our trees don't always get very big. They're skinny and lanky, and I'm seeing that there. And then these little dark marks are going to bring us right over to this tree. And now I'm going to put in that darkest dark line and just kind of hug that tree. And then maybe a little stuttery mark here and there. You see things starting to take shape. And I'm really liking this palette of colors. I didn't plan to use that Mars orange. That was a roulette situation. And I'm really liking what it's doing on the paper.
Yeah, well, you have me to thank for that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I will shake your hand. And I think I'm really moving towards feeling like this little study is doing everything I want it to do. I like the fact that, and one thing I tell myself in this intuitive process, I have lots of paper, lots of B-sides to try out ideas. Every painting is an experiment until I have a result that I'm excited about. And I like to keep any painting that I do, most of the time I don't paint for longer than 40 minutes to an hour or on any single painting. I might come back and put in a few details, but most of my paintings are completed in one session. And the nice thing about that is that if this painting doesn't turn out, I can say, well, I'll just try again when I have 40 minutes to invest in painting. And so it doesn't feel like as big of a loss as back in the day when I was spending 8 hours agonizing over a painting, and then I couldn't set it aside and say, I'm going to try that again. I felt like I had too much emotionally invested in it. And so this to me has been very freeing, this idea that I can paint with more of a freshness and just more of an immediacy. I lose the freshness the more time I spend. And so it's worthwhile to me to make multiple little versions of a scene. I have something to compare to. I can take a look at this little study and I can compare it to, that original sketch that I did this morning before our session. And I can see the differences between them. I can point out parts that I liked about each one and make decisions about what to do next. And how these paintings can speak to whatever I'm going to do in the future. I love this palette, this color palette, and I'm excited about thinking about using that again in the future. And I actually do like the palette here. It's a lot more vibrant, a little more in your face. There's brush marks I like here. There's little interplays of texture and color. This painting has a bit of spatter, which I haven't done here. And now that I've said that, I have to throw a little spatter in. Maybe some of that pure turquoise, a little more than that. Everything in my studio is covered in a fine mist of cobalt teal. It's just how I live. And that little actually emphasis mark of cobalt teal right there makes me so happy. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit on that for you. I'll just take a sec. There we go. And now that we're spattering, can't resist throwing a little bit of wisteria in. An artist friend once commented that when it comes to doing things that felt self-indulgent, she let herself do, put 3 self-indulgent spots on the paper. I'm not nearly so controlled as all that, self-controlled. If there's something I'm doing that feels really good and self-indulgent, I'm going to do more of it. My paintings are going to be a little extra, and I'm quite happy to own that as part of who I am. I like the little slash of bloodstone over here, which I didn't even point out. This is a part of the process that I like to talk about, is when you're painting intuitively, really take the time to take a look at your painting and think about what you like, what's working, what would you like to do again, and what are you curious about? Not what don't you like, not what are you critical of, but what are you curious about? You could have done this differently. What if I hadn't put that mark in there? It's okay to ask those questions. There's a little bit of negative painting right here where the bloodstone has created some little grassy marks by framing the Mars orange. I like that. Didn't do that intentionally, but I really like that little spot. When I was 16 and learning to paint, I remember having one painting where I pointed out one little brush stroke on that painting that looked like a real artist had painted it. And I still kind of evaluate my work that way. I'll go, oh, that looked like a real artist did that. That looked like a real artist did something good over there. And I still try to find the same joy in those little beautiful moments on the page. And those can propel you toward the next painting.
I think you're a real artist.
Yeah, well, I am, exactly. And yet I still have that little girl inside of me that asks those questions. And I just think that's such a funny contradiction after all these years.
We're all just frightened little children.
Yeah, exactly. And we want that inner child to come out, because it was that inner child that was the first person in our lives that really took joy in making art. Most of us know that deep satisfaction of playing with art supplies from a very young age. And, to get back to that place of playful non-judgment is really valuable.
So can you bring that painting more close up, or can you show it up to the camera so people can see it?
Yeah, I'm going to try to zoom in a tiny bit more. I'm not sure of the limitations of my camera, but
you can just hold it up. Oh,
yeah,
all right.
There we go. How's that?
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to just share a little bit of my process. It always feels like there's, so much more to say in the time we have. And actually, I'm excited that I'm going to be teaching for Watercolor Live this year. And I know you have been all working very hard to put that together, and looking forward to that as well.
We're pretty excited about it too. It's going to be pretty phenomenal. I'll tell people about it in a second. Well, thank you, Angela. Thumbs up and applause. Really terrific job. You get a gold star for Turkey Day.
Real artists. Yay.
Yay, real artist. Okay. Well, thanks again. All right. Make sure to check her website out. We'll put all that information in the chat. Angela mentioned she's teaching on Watercolor Live. Watch this. Well, we hope you'll join us for Watercolor Live. We have a massive lineup of some of the best artists in the world. And it's a great place to meet a lot of friends because we have this interactive component that allows you to talk to other people and get to know them and breakout rooms and all kinds of fun stuff. So check it out. That's Watercolor Live. I should also mention something that you really should do for yourself. Raise your hand. If you're sitting around, here we are on Thanksgiving, raise your hand if you're starting to think about, oh no, 2025 is just around the corner. And oh no, what am I going to do to be prepared? And what if you're thinking, okay, I'm an artist. I want to make a little money with my art this year. Or what if you're thinking, I already make a little money. I want to make a lot more money. Or what if you're thinking, I really need to make a lot of money this year. And I want to travel and I want to pay off my house and I want to do all this kind of stuff. Can't guarantee that's going to happen to you, but the goal here is to try to figure out what your dreams are and where you're going to go. And so I'm going to tell you about an event. I'm not going to bring it up just yet. I was on the other day on Realism Live, and we were chatting away with people in the comments, which is what we do, right? We communicate with one another. And people said, why don't you start something like Realism Live where you teach business and marketing for artists? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to do that because it's too much work. Because the preparation time on something like that is massive, right? So everybody's like, do it. I'd go do it. So that night I got on the phone with my crew and I said, okay, here's the deal. We're going to do it. I want you to build a website and you got to do it in like right away because we're going to announce it tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And so they built a website, they wrote it, they put the whole thing together, and we're going to be doing this. We'll pull that slide up now. It is called Art Business Mastery Day. I'll be teaching it along with some other people, and it's going to be on January 10th. It's early enough that we can impact your year and get the planning in place. And we're going to teach you how to plan for your year. We're going to teach you some really core essential marketing things that you need to know. And even if you've been doing this your whole life, I guarantee you're going to learn new things. And I decided to make it cheap because I want a lot of people there. So it's $47 and you can't get, that's lunch, right? You can't even buy one sneaker for $47, let alone a pair. And so this will serve you more than almost anything else you can buy, I believe, because it's going to teach you a key principle or two. We're going to do this. It's going to be like an 8-hour day. And you're just going to be consumed. We're going to talk about how to get into galleries. We're going to have artists on that have gotten into galleries. We're going to have artists on that have figured out how to make a lot of money. We're going to have gallery owners on. We're going to have a lot of different people. We have artists on that have figured out how to make money with their newsletters. There's just all kinds of things we're going to do. And we'll teach you about pricing. We'll teach you about things that you can do to rapidly sell things. We'll tell you about how you can make more money from every sale. There's all kinds of things we're going to do. And that's on Art Business Mastery Day. We're looking to have at least 1,000 artists on it, and we'd like to have more. So it's cheap. You should sign up. Go to streamlineartevents.com. That's my company, streamlineartevents.com/marketing. Just get in there and sign up. You will not regret it. You will have a great time. If you get one good idea out of it, it's going to be really spectacular. So just do it. And by the way, you might be that person who's like, hey, I would like to make an extra $1,000 a month, only $1,000 a month, right? To pay for some stuff. And like, I'm going to show you how to do that. And you might be the person who says, you know what? I need to make $100,000 a year. I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm even going to tell you about an artist I know that was making $5 million a year and how he's doing it. And I know it pretty well because he's a friend of mine. We've gotten very close. He's told me his whole program. It's going to surprise you. So make sure you sign up. And this, by the way, worldwide event. Now, you might want to watch live. That would be a cool thing. That way you can ask questions and interact. But we're working on, I can't guarantee this yet, but we're working on a way to time shift it so that it could come on in different time zones depending where you are in the world. We get a ton of people who attend our events from Australia, from Europe, from England, from Asia, from South Africa. We have them all over the world. So we would love for you to come because marketing is marketing. And yeah, you're going to have your local approaches to things. You're going to have to figure that out because I can't tell you exactly what you should or shouldn't do in England. You've got your own laws and things like that, but I will tell you the marketing principles. And remember that marketing isn't sleazy. It's only sleazy if you make it sleazy, right? You can have a beautiful opportunity to build an art business and make it in your voice and your style and your ethics, and you don't have to worry about doing something that's out of character for you. We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to show you how to do a plan, how to set your goals, how to make your goals work with your plan, and how to make that plan give you a higher likelihood that you're going to make your money every single month so that you hit your goal for the month, you hit your goal for the week, you hit your goal for the year. I'm going to show you all that kind of stuff. All right. Got a bunch of guests. Can't announce any of them yet, but because they're not solidified yet, there's one that's solidified so far, but I don't want to say who it is yet. But just go there. Just streamlineartevents.com/marketing. You will not regret it. Okay. Well, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We got all kinds of stuff that we want to do. We want to give you a free ebook. You go to AmericanWatercolor.net. That's our newsletter. AmericanWatercolor.net/ebook. It's a book on watercolor mastery, and you want that. I also got to tell you something else. Watercolor people, you're going to be blown away. Ready? You ready to be blown away? Okay. 𝗟𝗶 𝗨𝗽, one of the top watercolor artists in the world. Some people consider him the best of the best, right? He's in Australia. He is coming to the plein air convention, and he's going to teach a pre-convention workshop. We just met with the convention center. We said, look, we need extra seats to accommodate all the extra watercolor people coming. We always have a watercolor stage. We always have some really incredible watercolor people, and we do this year too. Plein air convention. 𝗟𝗶 𝗨𝗽 is going to be on the stage, and he's going to be in the pre-convention workshop. And so is Scott Christensen. And Scott Christensen hasn't been there since the very first time we did the convention, which was, 12, 13 years ago. So that's going to be in Lake Tahoe. Those of you who are driving distance, you'd be a fool to miss it. And quite frankly, people are coming in from all over the country. And get this, there's only 200 seats left. And that's not till May. And guess what? People are going to be buying for themselves for Christmas. Just saying. Okay, one more thing. you know, because I'm doing this because I've got a lot of extra people watching today. I know I do. All right. We do this thing. This is one of my favorite things to do in the world. We get a bunch of artists together and we go paint together. And we sit up at night and we party. We don't party too hard because I'm not a hard partier, but some of you are. We party. We bring our guitars and our kazoos and our voices, and we sit up and we sing. We do crafts at night. It's like summer camp. And these are my art retreats. We paint all day, every day. We feed you. We put you up. One price gets your room, your meals, 3 meals a day. Gets whatever extras we throw in. And this event I'm going to tell you about, it's got some new extras we've never done before. And this is my new winter event. And it's already half sold out and shouldn't be this early. It's called Winter Artscape. And it's in St. Augustine, Florida in February when the snow is really awful where you live, if you live in bad snow. And we're going to be basking in the sun and painting the classic old architecture and the parks and the palm trees and the ocean and the lighthouses. And you need to be there. That's called winterartscape.com. I don't think I've forgotten anything else. There's a ton of other things I should probably tell you about. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. Just be sure to join us. It's called Art School Live. You can subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button. Go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. And of course, if we're on Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform we're on several of them, just go ahead and follow us there too. But go to YouTube and subscribe. So that plaque back there, that's 100,000. The next plaque I can get is gold and it's 1 million. So we've had 16 million views. If everybody who watched the show would go over and subscribe, we'd get the gold plaque. And then I could brag about that. Say, hey, I got a gold plaque. All right. So see you tomorrow. Thanks and have a happy Thanksgiving. I am grateful for you guys. Have a great day and just enjoy your family. Enjoy the things that are surrounding you, no matter how crazy everybody gets, and be peaceful, right? Don't talk politics. Get over that. We're all sick of that. Have a great day.